Welcome back to Sad My Cup of Tea, and I've been chasing this figure for a while. The Sega PM figure Mamako Oosuki from the show called Tsujo Kogeki ga Zentai Kogeki Nenikai Kogeki ga Kasama Suki desu ka? Better get known as the MILF Isekai. And yes, I am part of the very small fanbase of this anime, even watch it with my best friend. Now we can't even get the opening out of our heads. There's another story behind that too, but I'm not gonna get into that. But I will get into the story that this was the review that was supposed to open 2022, but I ended up not getting it after like 3 weeks of back and forth with the seller, and I ended up 3 months late to making a review. Typical uploads guide actual. And now this is the figure to open up the reviews for 2023, thanks to a pretty awesome guy on Carousel who sold me this for 14 bucks. Thanks dude, hope you didn't put her in the jar. And this figure is actually a statue, or more specifically, a prize figure. So it's not gonna be formatted the same way as my usual reviews. I won't be doing the whole chapter thing, it's gonna be completely linear, since I will be going more in depth about the smaller details. Because once we connect her quite securely onto her plain white base, you can see that this figure looks pretty amazing. I've always been a fan of Mamako's design. She just looks so goddamn adorable, and you all know what I feel about the soft mommy look. This design for Mamako was redone by Yohei Yaegashi for the anime adaptation, retaining much of the energy of the original illustrations done by Idapochi, yes the VTuber Idapochi, in a pretty faithful figure form. Sculpted pretty well, not as soft or as crisp as I'd thought, rather the detailing is in this really nice middle ground, and she's a lot more nicely detailed than I had expected her to. Plenty of these little intricate details such as the buttons, ribbons, straps, and hemlines have been accounted for on this cheap figure, which is honestly a surprise for me. It looks great. But there is a bit of an issue when it comes to these buttons for her girdle thing. It's supposed to be connected on this bottom portion, but as we can see, that's not really the case. A bit of an issue, but fine by me, though it does warrant bringing it up. Other instances of issues such as the abundant mold lines and the sculpt being particularly soft in areas are noticeably present on this figure. But if you're a figure collector, especially for cheaper, it's honestly pretty common, especially for the time this was released. Plus, I'm a Plamo builder, fixing that is just a normal Tuesday. But what isn't a common issue, I think, is the metal back flap things. On mine they're pretty warped, but a bit of heat from a hairdryer would help with that. And I'm really liking the silver that they use on these armor bits. I love how it contrasts with the flat colors with how lustrous and shiny it is, like how I lust over her that sucked. Most of the painting is also pretty good honestly, really liking the softer colors. And the paintwork itself is decently clean, not too many mishaps. I'd say the usual for these type of figures, and the hair even has a bit of airbrushing to it, which is nice. Though I would say, due to the amount of skin showing, I would have preferred a bit more coloring on it. A bit of shadow work would do this some justice. But thank God they did not forget to include one of the best details on Mamako's design. Titty squeeze. Nice. Unfortunately, the chest is just slightly too small for me, just a tiny bit, but hey, a bit of painting trickery would help with that. Other bits of proportional oddities include the arms and the hands relative to the arms. At least to me they do, they could be accurate, but to my personal taste they seem a bit noodly, probably because of the pose. Actually, the pose on the figure isn't quite like the original illustration pose. If we compare them side by side, you can see that the figure has actually altered it by a bit, mostly in the upper half. And that's completely fine in my book, but if that bothers you, you have to understand. It's a 3-dimensional object, and translating 3D into 2D results in compromises, which is also an issue with the head that we'll get into later. The perspective of a 2D drawing wouldn't really match to what we have in the 3-dimensional plastic form. And besides, the actual pose we have makes her look more convincingly like she's coming in to give you a nice, warm, welcome motherly hug. Anyways, now's the time we focus on the head, which is pretty great. While lacking in paint, it does need a bit of blush. Her expression in the eyes really does make her look quite motherly and caring, reminding me that she's soft mommy who wants to blow my soup for me. Please blow my soup for me. That came out wrong. But while I do like Mamako head, I do have an issue with the actual design, specifically the bangs. Idapochi's designs usually have bangs covering the eyebrows, which looks cute on paper, but in plastic form, it'd be difficult to translate the emotion conveyed, as the plastic would just cover the eyebrows up. And almost every Idapochi stunt figure has this issue, so it doesn't look as appealing as I'd like, but that's not really a complaint. I might have a fix for this. But even if I don't, I could live with it. I mean, for the price, it's completely fine. Which is what you have to keep in mind. This really is just a cheap prize figure, so you shouldn't expect this to be phenomenal. To me, she looks quite satisfactory, along with her size. Along with her base, she stands at around 23 centimeters, so she's one hell of a big mama. That's definitely satisfactory. But I don't know what scale she falls under. Prize figures are usually non-scale, but if I had to say, she's around 1/8 scale. And for comparison, here she is with my previous review, the Zaku, a fellow male figure, the Figma Chiaki, Pop-Up Parade Kizuna Ai, who will be losing her job to this figure, introducing the new scaling trio, Chiaki, Mamako, and Gridman, was only just slightly taller than this figure. Go figure. And this figure is a lot like what I could say about the show. It's pretty decent, average to some, not the greatest, but something you could definitely really like, especially if you have mommy issues. Why am I writing like this? I got this for like 14 bucks, but I'd say even around the $30 mark, that's a pretty reasonable price. She is a bit hard to find, but if you do and you're looking for a Mamako figure, I'd recommend her. Overall, an above average 7 plus out of 10. Plus, it's a MILF figure. How could you not want it? So, now that I have that checked off my bucket list, what's next on the lineup? God damn it, Gundam again.